fantasy has played a really big role in my life. I have a 3-year-old who's discovered this whole fictional world, and she has been determined to get her 1.5-year-old sister and her parents into this completely virtual world of hers that we actually have to play along and accept. So it's something that's been on my mind, and you know, storytelling has been on my mind as a kind of obsession my whole life, not just because I'm an experienced designer, and not just because I work for a brand consulting and design firm where we work with our clients every day to imagine a future for our clients. And kind of co-create it with them. But so as I'm spending all this time with my girls, I'm thinking about all these old and modern fantasies and how they've been embodying this notion of bringing inanimate things to life. It's something that we've been obsessed with in society throughout time. And what I'm particularly fascinated with it now as a designer is because we've reached a place where our technology has the power to bring to life and will anything we can imagine basically into being. Whether it's IoT or AR or AI, we can literally take inanimate objects and bring them to life. And you know, you guys are talking about all this fascinating technology and the power of it when put into use. I spend a lot of time at my day-to-day thinking about how design gives purpose to that technology. And so as we look around and we see culture has completely been recoded. People are just behaving completely differently and have entirely new expectations of their everyday life. We know this is super obvious. We expect everything to be hyper-personalized, to be on our terms, to arrive at on our devices, on our time, the way we want it to. And the reason why we've reached that level of expectation is because we've had companies with incredible innovation and creativity put technology into use in a completely new way, right? Obvious. Amazon, Uber, you know, I'm looking at Microsoft PowerPoint on my Apple and listening to Spotify and Uber. All this stuff has really changed the way we are. And so I would argue that at this point, it used to be that we had an opportunity for brands to change the way they behave. And I'm talking B2B, B2C, just in general, their relationship with consumers. But at this point, we reached a point where brands actually, we believe, have an obligation to change and become truly living brand systems. We're talking about things that are entirely alive and mimic the relationship that we have with each other when they relate to their customers. So let me tell you a little bit about how we've been thinking about it. So everyone's talking about digital and personalization and interactivity. I want to just take a moment to divide the language in order to kind of make a differentiation between where we were and where we are today and where we believe things are going. So 1995, internet is invented, and we go digital and everything is interactive, but if you really think about it, it's absolutely not, right? Like a book becomes a PDF and a poster becomes a JPEG, and the content that brands are producing are actually completely prescribed. They're basically a broadcast model, right? It's a movie, it's pre-made, it's a kind of dead object that gets put on the internet and you experience it. Something particularly interesting happens in 2005. YouTube, Facebook go to market, and now we talk about being really interactive. What happens is, though, is that brands are still making these inanimate objects, these kind of fixed broadcast content, and putting it out on the web, and inviting people to write and comment about it. And so it's still very much a broadcast media channel, but now brands are able to listen, which gets kind of interesting. But it's still happening in human time. What I mean by that is that we'll make some content, we'll put it up on a website, we'll see what people say about it, we'll synthesize the data, maybe we'll do some research, get some insights and make a new movie, put it out there. It's episodic, and it's still kind of slow. The other interesting thing is that customers are now able to also listen to each other. But we believe that the next iteration, and I think nascent in all the conversations that have happened today and in everything that you guys do, is the notion of living. And that's where we go from a kind of customized world where our apps are made with fixed templates, where the only thing we're really customizing is just put a name here or put a piece of data here, to truly living systems. So that's real-time conversations where we're engaged with our customers in real time in an open channel, and where the nature of the conversation is actually transforming to become something almost human, right? So like the bots that we're seeing, AI, we're at the beginning of that, but the idea is now we have an ecosystem where brands and customers are in conversation in real time, but they're also in conversations with each other. And this intelligent and hyper-contextual world has enormous implications. So as we talk about, Steve's presentation earlier, talking about movies, to me, that's a kind of next-gen living movies or living financial systems that are really responding in real time. Another interesting place where we're seeing that is one of our clients is IBM Watson Health, and starting to think about how AI is truly transforming its relationship, not just as a product, but as a brand with its customers. So this is a kind of aspirational spectrum, and we're working every day to create with our clients intelligent brands. And intelligent, when I say brand, I don't just mean the superficial, like what is the marketing, but how do we code a company from the inside out and almost personify it so that it is inherently intelligent in what it does and how it expresses itself and how it's experienced. Another thing, and this maybe this is the woman in me, but one of the things that I find particularly compelling about thinking about the power of living brands enabled by all the technology that we're talking about today is, for the first time ever, we can talk about with legitimacy and meaning and science about the art of it all, right? So it's not just about the head, it's also about the hood. It's not just about strategy, but it's about emotion. It's not just about transaction, it's also about storytelling and bringing emotive things to life. And this allows us to also shift the conversation and really start to bring a rigor to the kind of creative expression of everything that we do. So specifically, a few conversations before mine were around the implications of technology. And I want to talk about how living brands changes design processes a lot, because it is about technology. And so as we think about living brands, it shifts how we think about design, both in terms of how we create and what we create. Design as behavior. So we used to take strategy and then decide the next output would be to create an icon, right? Like a faxable graphic that represents the brand, and then that was in 2D, and then we would put it in on the website and start to think about how it might move or animate in 3D, and then we would think about how we would design the interface. We are actually completely reversing that process. So again, imagine creating a new persona. We begin now by designing experience principles. Who is this brand? What is their personality? And all the the personality traits that define that personality. And just like if you think of someone close to you, who might be funny and restrained, they might toggle. So in certain situations where they have an intimate moment, they might be less restrained and more funny, and in, say, business situations, they might be more restrained and less funny, but there are core things in their DNA that define who they are and that guide every expression. And only once we define those experience principles, we can start to like dress them and decide what they look like and what they sound like and what is the voice agent and how do they express the messaging and the voice. And then we realized that actually design is also shifting. So it used to be that we would create this perfect graphic and then we would release it to the world across all media. But now we're actually designing through algorithms. We're actually translating those behaviors into code and creating tools that will allow the brand to express itself in different touch points in different ways that are contextual and intelligent and relevant and hyper-personalized. And thirdly, design as experience. So this is interesting. So we've been working on this living brands thinking and how it influences design. And I asked one of the designers in our studio, what does this mean to you? And he put it in a really succinct way that helped me a lot. He said, if you ask anyone, what does the Tinder logo look like? No one knows. What they think about is the swiping from left to right. And the point is that design is no longer sufficiently captured in that mug the way it used to. The way people relate to brands now, and this links so perfectly to this notion of living brands, is through their humanity, through their behavior, through the experience that they create. That's how you build the relationship, and that's what makes it meaningful. And so one of the reasons why I think this is a relevant conversation is that a lot of the conversation that's been happening today is around the technology that empowers it. But thinking about the purpose, the meaning, the goal, and how it services ultimately creating better experiences is pretty powerful, and what a better experience even means. So it's super ambitious. We're actually cooking up some pretty cool projects that I wish I could show you, but I can't yet, maybe next year. So I brought just like a little taste. It's small, well, it's not small, but it's a regional company in the healthcare space. And so you're asking, why healthcare? We don't care, this is entertainment. I care because I feel like, first of all, if you can make healthcare interesting, you can make anything interesting. But also because as a designer, one of the things that makes me most passionate is not making things beautiful. That's the craft. That's like the equivalent of you guys writing code or whatever it is that you do on a day-to-day basis. That goes without saying that it has to be amazing. What fascinates me about design, particularly in this day and age, is because brand is experience, the power of design to literally change brands, help them grow better, and impact human lives. And so when design plays a role in healthcare, that's kind of like the ultimate. Obviously, all of this applies across any industry. So Canopy is a healthcare provider that, just bear with me for 1 minute, and then I'm going to get back to design, but it's actually kind of interesting. So what they've done is, healthcare is such a nightmare, we all know this. And in the Bay Area, you have all these healthcare providers, so you typically pick a provider, and then within that provider, find a doctor. And this tries to eliminate all of that and allow you to just focus on the service that you need. So you could go on this app, find the service that you need, everything gets taken care of for you, whether who the provider is, insurance, all that. Just all about clarity and transparency. So we did the strategy for the company and the name, and then it came to activating the brand. And in this case, what we did was, instead of thinking about capturing a brand as a representation of what the company does, we decided to flip it and actually have it perform. So think about the human body. Lots of super complex systems all synthesized magically into one number, your body temperature, that signals your entire health. Here, we're using real-time data to capture the wellness of the brand on a meta level. And then on your app, once you're logged in, it represents the health of just you. A barometer, but your health being not just how well you're doing, but how well you're doing in the broader sense, like, are you behind appointments? Are your bills paid or not? And so this symbol is a real-time data signal of the brand, and then what it allows you to do, is it playing? Some of them are playing, but you get the point, is that this is not just a color story, but now the symbol can adapt to its environments in form and not just color. So then as we think about the brand, and this is a brand that's essentially born in a digitally native environment, it doesn't have a physical home. So now in order to signal partnerships, what it does is it inherits the color of the brand on the right, and so that in real time it can adapt to the different partnerships and it kind of perform the strategy of the brand. But this is just what we'd call a living identity. There's a whole entire spectrum of implications for a living brand. So for example, a living dashboard. So we used to think about healthcare as a transactional thing. You get sick, you go to the doctor, they help you, you pay them money. And that's a kind of very business exchange. And what living brands allows us to do is actually flip it on its head and think about thinking about experience. So if we go from transaction to experience, from sickness to maintaining health, you're creating an open channel with all your patients and capturing their behaviors over time. So you're seeing whether they're active or not, and how they're even administering the medication. So imagine pillboxes that have IoT sensors that enable us to monitor how you're consuming your medication, that report back to the doctor in order to evaluate how you're doing, and then also synchronize your records across your dietitian and your doctor and even your dentist. Or even using predictive technologies that allow you to then sync between your medicine and your credit card bills. Like, you're about to make an appointment for the dentist, but since we can forecast that you've got some big bills to pay this month, we recommend that you postpone that appointment for the following month so that you will be able to manage your finances better. So this whole idea of intelligence means that we're creating a much broader, the potential of creating a much broader ecosystem where everything is synchronized and intelligent. And obviously hyper-personalized, like obvious things, like think about every time you make an appointment to the doctor, we never know how much it's going to cost, which is kind of a odd basic thing when the system can now give you your cost estimate based on how far you are in your deductible and the type of investment that you're going to make. So obviously this is something I'm really passionate about, and we spend a lot of time thinking about, and I wanted to finish just by saying that I think one of the ways that we get there is actually in design collaborations. So as technology and design work together to really think about not just what the technology can do, but think about what is the future and how people might want to interact, and then design technologies in a purposeful way in order to create experiences. So thank you for your curiosity.